Hello, my name is Chloe, welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you my latest book unhaul. So if you used to watch my unhauls, up until the last one, I used to unhaul books as I go and then bring you these videos as wrap-ups to what I'd unhauled. However, I've now changed my method and I have a giant stack of books here to show you. It means that when I'm reading a book and want to unhaul it, I am keeping them to the side so that I can show you all in a video. This doesn't apply to if I've read books on holiday and left them somewhere or sent them to someone instantly for a specific reason. So including the books that have already left my possession, I have 45 books to show you that I have unhauled since July this year. So July to October, I have unhauled 45 books, and I think that is really good. I definitely haven't hauled that many. I say definitely. I think I haven't hauled that many. So the book collection is going down in numbers, maybe. So we're just going to run through them all. If I hold up the book physically, that means at the time of filming and the time of publishing this video, the book is available. If it is a finished copy, it will be listed on my Vinted, which will be down in the description. Vinted is very easy for me to send books out to you guys if you are interested, so please do go check that out if you like any of the books I've held up. Otherwise, if I put a picture on the screen, it's either been left in a foreign country or already has a new home. So the first book I have is a physical one, and that is Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. I didn't like this the first time I read this, but for some reason wanted to have all of the books in physical copies because they're just so like small and cute and cool. So I bought the first book thinking that I just didn't understand it when I first read it, but I reread this in July and still didn't like it, so I'm unhauling my physical copy. Next up we have Happenstance by Tessa Bailey. I read this on my trip to the US in like June and July, so after I read it I left it there. It wasn't one I wanted to read again. It was like a 4-star romance, so I would recommend. I just didn't love it enough to bring it home. We then have His Kind of Perfection by Pamela Heron, which again I read on my US trip. I didn't love it. I think I gave it like 2.5 stars, so yeah, it wasn't going to come back. I then have The Truants by Kate Weinberg, which I did really like, but I decided that the mother-in-law should probably give it a go, and I didn't really have a nice enough copy to warrant bringing it home and keeping it on my shelves forever. But if I do find a nice copy of this book, I might purchase another. Then we have A Pirate's Love by Joanna Lindsey, which I also left in the States, and this is potentially my most hated book of 2024, so I won't talk about it too much because it will have been in my wrap-up and then it will be in my worst books list of the year, but I hated this so much it was not coming home with me. Next up we have The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. Wait, I think there might actually be 46 books because I have 2 copies of this. I'll get onto the other soon. But this copy of The Sky is Everywhere, I unhauled this one because I hauled a new copy that matched my edition of I'll Give You the Sun. I'll get more into those books in a little bit though, but we have this cover of The Sky is Everywhere. We then have Near the Bone by Christina Henry. I didn't hate this book by any means, but it just wasn't one that I wanted to keep on my shelves forever, so I've decided to unhaul, but I am trying out more of Christina Henry's books. Then we have A Man Called Ove by Frederick Backman, and yeah, I bought this when everyone was raving about it, and I just knew that it's gonna be lots of people's cup of tea. It's probably not going to be mine, so every time I was looking at it on my TBR I was daunted by the fact that I could have that book to read, like it could happen, and if I'm that intimidated by the potential of reading a book, I don't think I need to keep it. Similar story then with My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologies. I'm sure this is a fantastic book. I know people have loved it, but I was feeling genuinely scared of being given this book to read. So I don't need books on my shelves that I'm scared to read. Then we have The Start of Me and You by Emery Lord. This was just a fine YA contemporary. I have a pretty beat up copy and I just didn't need to keep it on my shelves forever, so after I read it, it's been unhauled. Then we have 2 tiny little books, which are The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe and Prince Caspian by C.S. Lewis. I did really like reading Prince Caspian the last time I read it. I think it was back in 2020, but these dinky little books are really cute, but they were actually making it quite hard for me to shelve books because of how small they are, and I just found myself irritated every time I was trying to shelve books around them. So seeing as they're not things I need to keep forever, if I want to reread these stories, I can go to a library. I I'm sure the audiobook is like publicly available at this point. So yeah, I just didn't need these two on my shelves. Then we have Frankly in Love by David Yoon, and it's been so long since I read this. Oh yeah, there is a note in here. I read it in 2020 and I did like it from memory at the time. I think it was pretty good, but it just hasn't left a lasting impact on me, and I also wasn't finding myself wanting to reread it to see if I would still like it. So yeah, I just decided that I don't need to keep it on my shelves. It wasn't a favourite back then, so it can go. We then have two that are linked. We have Guild and we have Glint by Raven Kennedy. I read both of these books. I think I gave them both 3 stars, and I have book 3, which is, I think, Gleam, on my shelf still. And I kept saying that when I read Gleam, I was going to not continue with the series and I was going to unhaul all of them. So why do I not take the first 2 books off my shelves to make space for more books while I'm waiting to read Gleam? Because I know they're gonna go. I just have a bit of a completionist thing about these. They were purchased for me by my mom, so I've decided I want to finish Gleam, but I know I'm not gonna keep the series forever, so these can both go. I then have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I just wasn't feeling it. I explained it, I think, in the video, like the vlog where I unhauled it, but it was another one where I was just scared to be told to read it, so I don't need to, you know, I wanted to be in on the hype when it was hyped, but looking back, it wasn't probably going to be my cup of tea. Then we have Vladimir by Julia May Jonas. This is the Book of the Month edition, and I DNF'd it about 10 pages in. I just wasn't feeling it, didn't like the vibes, and yeah, I'm sure lots of people love this book, but it wasn't for me. I just knew it wasn't going to happen. Then we have Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. This is an ARC copy that I had. Oh yeah, so I should say, I don't know if I said at the top, if I'm holding up an ARC copy, clearly it's not going to be on my Vinted because you can't sell them, but if you are interested, let me know. And we can do trades and stuff like that. But yeah, this is a fantasy book that I buddy read with Emily in the end to get me through it. And it just wasn't, I don't know what I wanted from this book, but I was very confused. It was very lyrical, and yeah, it's just not one I'm going to reread. Then we have Not My Type by Evie Mitchell. Unfortunately, this book was just not my type. It was a rope BDSM romance, which didn't really do that to its full potential. So yeah, it just wasn't my thing. It didn't like it. Then we have Heather by Charlotte Wood, which I was sent by the author to review. I thought it was really promising as a first book, but it just wasn't one that I wanted to read again. So yeah, that was Unhauled. Then we have The Sea Witch by Katie Robert. I have a love-hate relationship with the Wicked Villain series, and sadly this one was not my vibe. There are things that happen in the romances. In some books I like them, in some books I don't, and this one didn't tick all my boxes. Then we have Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen M. McManus. I thought this was a perfectly decent YA mystery thriller, but I'm not going to reread it, so it can leave. Then I have No Romeo by Donna Alam. I did not like this book. I was sent it for a tandem read-along, and yeah, it just felt really weak, to be honest with you. So this one was part of an annotate read along, so this is my annotated copy, and I don't need it. Then we have We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. When I first read this back in like 2018, it was a 5-star read. I absolutely loved it, but it didn't hold up on reread when I reread it like last month, the month before. So yeah, decided I don't need this on my shelves forever. Then we have The Night Swim by Megan Goldin. I think I actually gave this 4 stars in the end, so it is a good book, but it didn't feel rereadable to me, and I don't need to keep books on my shelves that I'm never going to pick up again. I am storming through these, guys. I hope that's okay. Now we have the start of the vlog where Cole picked my reading, and I have unhauled every book from that vlog. The first one is Little Do We Know by Tamara Island Stone. I didn't dislike this. It's a YA contemporary. It just didn't do anything special for me, so I'm not going to read it again. I think I gave it 3 stars. Like, it's fine, but it's not keepable. Then I DNF'd Youngblood by Sasha Lorenz. This is a YA paranormal, like, vampire school story. It wasn't my vibe. I think I got about 100 pages in and just didn't really care, so DNF'd. Then we have These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. This is the Fairy Loot edition, and I'm so grateful to Claire that she sent me this book. However, on reading it, I didn't think it was anything special, so it's being unhauled. I don't need to keep this. And then finally from that vlog, we have The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. Again, 3 stars. This is an adult mystery. I don't know if we can really call it a thriller. And it just didn't, yeah, it didn't thrill me at all. So 3 stars, it was fine, not gonna read it again. We are in the final stack, and all of these are pretty much from the last month, so I think I've done really good at unhauling. First one in the final stack is The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. This is an adult contemporary romance, and I really did like this book in the last 75 pages. But up until that point, I was considering DNFing, so this isn't a 5-star read for me. It doesn't need to stay on my shelves forever. I realised I missed a book from the last stack, and that's because I don't physically have it with me because it's still in my car from when I DNF'd it, and that is Night Chills by Dean Koontz. This was one of the Chloe's Crime Scene Corner reads. I got about 50 pages in and I could not motivate myself to go any further. Next up, we have Gilded by Marissa Meyer. This one I was really excited to read. I'd hyped it up in my head. It's a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, and like I've said about many of these books, it just didn't do anything special for me, so it's been unhauled. Then we have Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This was a perfectly decent adult thriller, but after I read it, I thought, you know who'd really like that? My mom. So I gave it to my mom rather than leave it for one of these unhaul videos. I'd already battered and bruised my copy a little, so I was fine with it going to my mom and her bruising and battering it further, and then she can pass it on to all of her thriller friends that she's handing these books around to now. I think she'll like it. She hasn't read it yet, but it didn't need to be in my collection. Then we have The Club by Ellery Lloyd. This is an ARC that Victoria sent me a little while ago, more than a little while ago. I guess, again, I don't know if it's quite a thriller category, but it's an adult mystery of sorts, and it didn't do anything special for me, so it's being unhauled. Now we move over to the books I left in Spain on my last trip, starting with You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle. This was an adult romance that I gave 2 stars, wasn't a big fan at all, so I left it in the hotel lobby. The next one I left in the hotel lobby was Play Dead by Harlan Coben, which I got 100 pages into after a whole day of reading and decided to cut my losses. I also left Exciting Times by Nisha Dolan, which I did finish. I gave it 2 stars. Wasn't exciting at all. And then I've actually missed one from my list, so this unhaul is bigger than I thought. I also DNF'd Tell Me Lies by Carola Lovering while I was away and left that one in the hotel lobby. Next up, as mentioned earlier, we have The Sky Is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson in this different cover. This is because I'm also unhauling I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, which both of these I reread. They were both 5 stars, favourite books in my memory, but on reread this came down to a 4 and this came down to a 3.5. I don't need to keep books on my shelves that I did once love and the ratings come down. If I read them again, they might drop even further. So yeah, I don't need to keep these on my shelves forever, unfortunately. Which moves on to the next book, which is When the World Tips Over by Jandy Nelson. I read these both again in September because I was very excited about the release of When the World Tips Over. I've been waiting years for this book, but unfortunately I DNF'd it less than 50 pages in. It just wasn't what I wanted. The writing felt very different. It didn't feel like the same author, and I didn't want to persevere with it. So I unhauled that one, and these can both go too. Very, very sad, she says with a smile. Next up, we have Bad Like Us by Gabriella Lepore, another ARC, but this one was sent to me by Harper 360 YA. Unfortunately, I didn't absolutely love it. I stormed through it, it was a fun time, but I'm never going to read it again, so it can go. Then we have Bloodlines by Rochelle Mead. I've had this one a very long time. I bought it so that I could take part in a read-along that I don't think ever actually happened. But I have loved all of the Vampire Academy books. I still have those up on my shelves. And I decided if I was going to read any nostalgic Rochelle Mead, I wasn't going to start a new series, so this one can go. I decided to get rid of an ARC that I got at Yelk in 2022, and that is Princess of Souls by Alexandra Christo. I actually won this ARC. I didn't like go up and fight my way for it, so I don't feel too awful. But this is actually a sequel to Kill a Kingdom, which I unhauled like before Yelk. I don't think I knew it was a sequel. So I'd been holding on to this just in case, and the time never came. So can unhaul this. I have also decided to unhaul Middle Game by Shauna Maguire. I did read this, I did like this, but the idea of rereading it just isn't very appealing to me at all. This is an adult fantasy, and it's told in such a strange narrative that it's interesting to read for the first time, but I don't think I would really vibe with it on reread. It was a lot of effort to read. So because of that, I've also unhauled my ARC of Seasonal Fears. Very grateful that I came to be in possession of this, but I've given it to Victoria, who I'm sure will actually read it and give you a very interesting opinion and thoughts about this book. And then last but not least, we have Family of Liars by E. Lockhart. This is the prequel to We Were Liars. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't absolutely love it. I gave it 3 stars, so there is no need for me to keep a 3-star book on my shelves that I'm never going to reread, and I've already unhauled the following book. So there we have it. That is my slightly giant unhaul. I do still have a few books left from my last unhaul that haven't yet sold on Vinted, so I will list these ones on Vinted. If they don't go, they will go to Ziffit, and anything that is left will go to the charity shop. So just for reference, if you were considering checking out my Vinted, the other books that are left behind are The Lock-In, Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry, Ace of Spades, This Is How You Fall in Love, Dating Dr. Dill, A Wildflower Summer, Barefoot on the Beach, and When Dimple Met Rishi. So I have a lot of books in my apartment right now that are technically not in my collection. They have been unhauled, but we will see how long it actually takes me to give them the boot. But technically, these have been unhauled. They are no longer my books. I can now start a brand new unhaul stack, which is always very exciting. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the content of me getting rid of all of these books. But for now, I need to find a storage solution so that I can start a new pile and these don't take over my book room. Thank you guys for being here. I really do hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.